He was the founder of Russian Romance and Russian classical music, a tireless collector of folklore, and a musical romanticist who filled music with poetry and fairy tales. Due to Mikhail Ivanovich Glinka's talent, the Ruslan and Ludmila of Pushkin, the legendary Ivan Susanin, were staged at the Bolshoi Theater in St. Petersburg. The future composer Mikhail Glinka was born on May 20, 1804, in the family manor of his father in the village of Novospaskoye near Smolensk. The weak and feeble child was surrounded by music from his childhood. In the house of his father there was a chorus of serfs, and his uncle Afanasy Glinka conducted an amateur orchestra which became a source of the greatest delights for the boy. The boy inherited his love for folk songs, belinas, and fairy tales from his mother. Legend has it that when his mother once found him at night at a grand piano, 9-year-old Misha replied to her reproaches, "What shall I do? Music is my soul." In 1818, his father brought Mikhail to St. Petersburg. The capital amazed Glinka with its theaters, museums, and musical salons. The 14-year-old teenager was sent to a boarding school for children of the nobility at the Imperial Pedagogical School. There he became acquainted with Pushkin, who visited his brother Leo there, a schoolmate of Mikhail. While studying, young Glinka took singing lessons and composition theory, he learned to play violin and piano, and he even gave a piano concert at the final examination. Wilhelm Kuchelbecker, Glinka's teacher of Russian language and literature and his close friend, introduced the young man to the poets Baratynsky, Ryleyev, and Zhukovsky. Glinka began to compose his own songs and romances to their verses. At parties hosted by the social elites, Mikhail was frequently asked to perform The Poor Singer to the verses of Zhukovsky, the elegy called Do Not Tempt Me Needlessly by Baratynsky, or a charming romance to Pushkin's verses, Don't Sing, O Beauty, in My Presence. Most females found the music and voice of Glinka so irresistible that Mikhail soon became one of the most desirable men of St. Petersburg. However, strength and passionate love appeared in the movements of the young composer only when he sat at a grand piano or took a violin. When the charming sounds faded, Glinka turned into a modest, rather absent-minded young man. The weak health of the composer did not allow him to continue in the music field for long, and in 1830, Mikhail Glinka left abroad to improve his health in the mineral waters of Germany and the warm climate of Italy. He also wanted to become acquainted with West European art. Studying folklore, the young Russian composer Mikhail Glinka traveled with his music book across almost the whole of Italy and Germany. He gladly sang songs with Italian wine growers or German organ grinders. The 26-year-old Glinka attended many classical music concerts in Milan. Mikhail Ivanovich had the dream to create a Russian national opera based on Russian melodic traditions. Glinka took lessons of music theory from the famous German teacher Siegfried Dehn and returned to Russia as a mature master. Despite his father's death and the unbearable atmosphere at home because of his extremely unsuccessful marriage with Maria Ivanova, the composer was strong enough to continue his work. Yet in his youth, he was amazed by the feat of the Russian peasant Ivan Susanin, glorified by Ryleyev in the poetic collection Ballads. Glinka created an opera to this plot, assuming that a peasant would be its main character. However, the flattering courtiers let Glinka know that if he emphasized Ivan Susanin's loyalty to the Tsar, instead of glorifying his image as a peasant hero, it would be easier for the composer to get a position in the court chapel. Glinka acted against the voice of his conscience. And the libretto to the ready composed music was written by the court poet baron Henry Rosen. On January 27, 1836, the opera Ivan Susanin, under the new name The Life for the Tsar, was successfully presented at the Bolshoi Theater in St. Petersburg in the presence of the imperial family. And as promised, Glinka soon received a position as the head of the court chapel. But his wife Maria cared only about her dresses and public position. Besides, she was quarrelsome, grumpy, and narrow-minded. The composer said that everything spiritual and poetic turned out to be inaccessible for her. Glinka even had to leave home and stay with his friends. The 34-year-old composer became acquainted with a young beauty named Ekaterina Kern, a daughter of Anna Petrovna Kern, who inspired Pushkin to create his verses, I Remember a Wonderful Moment. Mikhail Glinka, who was in love with her, set Pushkin's verses to music and dedicated the romance to the younger Kern, Yekaterina. In 1842, there was the opening of the first Russian opera fairy tale based on Pushkin's poem Ruslan and Ludmila. Soon, the composer went abroad again. His Spanish impressions underlaid two of his orchestral plays, Jota from Aragon and Night in Madrid. The audience was sure that the passages full of passion were composed not by the Russian composer, but by a Spaniard. Addressing the Russian theme again, Glinka composed the play Komarinskaya. Tchaikovsky wrote about it that it contains all Russian symphonic music, as an acorn contains an oak. His aggravating illness again prevented the composer from giving shape to his other creative ideas. In 1857, Glinka died in Germany. The ashes of the Russian genius were transported to St. Petersburg and buried in Alexander Nevsky Lavra. The famous critic Stasov wrote, Mikhail Ivanovich Glinka is of the same value in Russian music as Pushkin in poetry. Both of them had great talents. They both created new Russian language, one in poetry, the other in music. At the end of the 20th century, his orchestra composition, The Patriotic Song, was Russia's national anthem for almost 10 years.